Ryan Day, all eyes are on you. Look, Ohio State has always been a good team under Ryan Day. Been one of the best teams in the country. The last few years, he has failed to live up to expectations. 3 straight losses to Michigan. No national championships. And last year, a big disappointment. Going 11-2 and losing to Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. This is the year that Ohio State needs to break through. This is the year that they need to get back to the college football playoff. This is the year that they maybe need to go on to win the whole dang thing. And luckily for them, they have the talent and the schedule to do all of that. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Ohio State Buckeyes, who come in at number 2 in our way too early top 25. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com. Tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason. And, of course, plenty of content there during the season. We want you to take advantage of it. We want you to become a member of our GE Nation, because here at the Gridiron Expert, college football never dies. So go check it out. Hit that subscription button. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any content coming your way, including that Ohio State prediction, which will be here in just a few months. So Ohio State, guys, look, last few years have been a disappointment. I know 2 years ago they still made the playoff despite losing to Michigan. But the 2 years outside of that, last year and then a couple years ago, it didn't happen. So Ohio State really not living up to the expectations. You know, they, in certain areas of the country, Athens, Tuscaloosa, Columbus, they expect to win titles. And Ryan Day isn't doing that. So what did he do? He recognized the problem, and he went out and dominated the transfer portal. Went out and got himself Will Howard coming in at quarterback from Kansas State. Some aren't thrilled with that, and I don't know why. That's a heck of a pickup to lead your team. They picked up Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss to pair him with Travion Henderson at running back, one of the best running back duos in all of college football this year. They also poached all of Tuscaloosa when Nick Saban retired. They went out and got Caleb Downs. They got on defense. They got Seth McLaughlin on the offensive line. They got Julian Sayin, the 5-star quarterback, all from Alabama when they transferred out following Saban's retirement. To me, I think this year, if you're Ohio State, it's national championship or bust. All the pieces are there. You expect to contend. You will contend. You got to put it all together, though. And you look at the schedule and you go, how can they not? How can they not make the playoff? How can they not maybe go on to win a national championship, because the schedule is really, really favorable. And with the 12-team playoff, guys, there is no excuse for Ohio State to miss out. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. Many would believe that Ohio State's going to make the playoff, but do they get bounced in one of the first rounds, or do they make a run all the way to the national championship? But you look at what they're up against. I mean, look, the first part of that schedule is so easy. Akron, Western Michigan, who cares? Bye week. Then Marshall at Michigan State, who they beat by 35 last year. The Spartans still going to be going through a bit of a rebuilding process. And they host Iowa, who maybe offensively will be a little bit better, but the game's down at Kinnick. And when the game's down at Kinnick, I don't fear Iowa nearly as much. So, look, you're looking at that. You're probably looking at a 5-0 start for Ohio State. We're not predicting games. Again, I'm not going to continue to redirect that, but we're not predicting them, but Ohio State's going to be favored in all 5 of those games, and if they lost to any of those teams, it would be a major shock and maybe a bad sign of things to come. It's that game at Oregon, right? There's 3 games in Ohio State's schedule that's going to define the season, right? Because the rest of it's pretty easy. At Oregon, at Penn State, and Michigan. Those are the 3 games that are the biggest in Ohio State's schedule. Everything else, quite frankly, should be a cakewalk. You're playing an Indiana team that has a brand new head coach. You're playing a Northwestern team that surprised a lot of people last year, but has nowhere near the amount of talent and speed and coaching that you do. You play Purdue at home, who you beat by 34 last year and still going through growing pains. And you come off a bye week and you play Nebraska, who still has a lot of key new pieces on both sides of the ball, but looking to finally break through to a bowl game, finally, after, 8 years, under Matt Rule. The schedule is so easy, with the exception of those 3 games. So easy. The exception of 3, at Oregon, at Penn State, and Michigan. So let's break them down. At Oregon, big game. Oregon joining the Big Ten this year, their first year in the conference. They are loaded with talent. Like Ohio State, they did very well in the transfer portal. Got themselves a very good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel from the Big 12. Ohio State adds Will Howard, and then Oregon adds Dylan Gabriel. So going to be a fun Oklahoma versus Kansas State quarterback battle in Eugene on October 12th. But Oregon's really, really good, guys. We know that. Dan Lanning, a phenomenal coach. The offense was firing on all cylinders last year. They're going to do so again this year. They had a lot of key new pieces on defense. Home field advantage in Eugene going to be massive in this game. I would not be shocked to see Ohio State lose this game. I'm not saying they are. We'll predict that game in the summer, and then we'll predict it again later on in October. But that's a tough game. It's one of the toughest environments in all of college football. And Oregon has a chance to win the entire Big Ten in their first year because they have the coaching and the talent to do so. So that Oregon game is task number one. Come out of the bye week, they play Nebraska. Then they get Penn State. Look, they've owned Penn State. You know, the Nittany Lions have come so close. They've played Ohio State very tough. Last year was just a 20-12 game. So once again, another one-possession loss for Penn State. But Ohio State always seems to find a way to get over the hump, finds a way to battle back and beat Penn State. They haven't lost to the Nittany Lions since, 2016? And that was when Penn State finally beat them. They blocked the field goal. That was like the signature moment in that game. That was like Penn State's back, and the Nittany Lions haven't won since. So we're coming up on almost 10 years since the Nittany Lions won. So there have been games in Happy Valley, there have been games in Columbus, and they just can't do it, even though they always play Ohio State very tough. Once again, Penn State's got a good team, right? 2 new coordinators that I think are going to improve the team. Veteran quarterback in Drew Aller, a great running back duo, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Penn State's going to give them everything they've got. And that's one area where Ohio State's got to be careful, right? Because if they lose to Oregon, you can't afford to lose to Penn State. Because then you got 2 losses. And that might not necessarily keep you out of the college football playoff. Now that it's a 12-team playoff, I think teams can afford to lose 2 games and can still find their way in. But that means that Michigan game, once again, becomes a massive must-win. If you lose to Michigan, you're out with 3 losses. And imagine 3 losses for Ohio State. If you win, you're awaiting your fate anxiously on what's going to happen on Selection Sunday for the 12 teams. And more than likely, I think Ohio State would slip in. But you'd rather avoid that, right? Like, go undefeated, be a 1-loss team. Who wouldn't, right? I mean, but the Penn State game, though, is really massive, though. If they beat Oregon, it's still massive, but it becomes an even bigger game if they lose to Oregon. And in Happy Valley, maybe a whiteout game for the Nittany Lions, who knows? So I can see it being that big noon kickoff, whatever. Or CBS game now. The Big Ten has the rights to that. This is a Penn State team that's going to give them everything they've got. And if history says anything, it's going to be a very, very, very close game. Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, great opportunities for Ohio State to bounce back and fix things from the Penn State game, to ride the momentum of the Penn State game, whatever happens to that, and then Michigan. And look, this is a Michigan team that I think is going to struggle maybe a little bit early on with figuring out their identity with so many key new pieces and a new coach. I think they're going to get better as the year goes on. So it's unfortunate that Ohio State, of course, has to play them when Michigan, in theory, has figured everything out. But they get them in Columbus. I know they lost to Michigan in Columbus 2 years ago. I get that. But that was a different Michigan team. That was a different Ohio State team. You've lost 3 in a row. If you lose to Michigan at home with so many key pieces gone from that Wolverines team that won the Natty last year, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I'm not saying Michigan's going to fall off and be terrible. They're still a Big Ten title contender, no doubt about it. But Ohio State should be favored in this game. On paper, they are better than Michigan in this game. And it would be a massive shock, I think, if Ohio State did lose this game. And a major disappointment if they did. But Michigan, of course, no slouch. They feel confident. They know they can beat Ohio State. They know they can beat Ohio State with Sherrone Moore, who's the new head coach now. He led them to victory over them last year, beat them 30-24. Why couldn't he do it again? And it's the game. It's going to have playoff implications. It's going to have Big Ten title implications. It's going to be the most watched game, one of the most watched games in the season finale, final week of the year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. And Ohio State has to be cautious not to let them get in their head and say, yeah, we're angry, we hate Michigan, this, that, and the other, but we've lost 3 straight. I'm not saying they're scared of Michigan, but you've got to be mindful of that. So you look at this schedule, guys, it is a cakewalk with the exception of 3 games. And the beauty of that, too, is the fact that Ohio State gets to space those 3 games out. Oregon, and then you get 2 weeks until you play Penn State, and then you get like another 3-4 weeks until you play Michigan. So it's a very favorable schedule. Ohio State's going to be very, very dominant this year. We've got them ranked number 2 in the country for a reason, but none of it's going to matter. It's not going to mean anything unless Ryan Day can finally deliver. If he can't win those big games, and he can't get Ohio State to the playoff where they're playing for a national title. None of it will mean anything if he can't do that. All eyes are on you, Ryan Day. You've got the talent. You've got a lot of talent. You've got the schedule. You've got everything right in front of you. Now you just got to take it. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com. Tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason. We don't want you to miss out. We want you to become a member of our GE Nation. So make sure to check it out and make sure to subscribe. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.